Oh man, they're on the outskirts of Berlin now. That's crazy. So they're taking more and more ports. Stettin has finally fallen, Danzig has finally fallen, and this is one hell of a beachhead. This is going to be pretty much impossible to push back. Germany might have some units able to come in and try and bolster their defences here. Let's go and take a look at this from Germany's perspective. We have got some regular German forces coming in. I don't think that the Flemish Wallonian units are going to be enough to hold. They are basically giving up East Germany. They might be able to get a stalemate here. Particularly if they start convoy raiding, which their fleet is just sitting out here in the Baltic doing nothing. If they switch that to convoy raiding, they would stop the supplies arriving to these units and they would slowly starve, and then you'd be able to push them back to the sea. Unfortunately, they are not doing that because the understanding of navies and their strength in this game continues to go unappreciated. Meanwhile, in France, France is moving towards Belgium. Meanwhile, Liverpool is under siege again by the Americans. Manchester has fallen. They do have a heavy tank here encircled, which does look like it's about to be destroyed by the British militia unit. Newcastle is under attack and is about to fall. That's going to be another port made available for them. Meanwhile, Scotland has fallen. They do have now a solid front line on the front against them. Germany is pushed out. So they have actually managed to take Cambridge, and with Cambridge it means that these two are now fully secure, and in fact it looks like Germany, very sneakily, has actually been building a dock in Norwich so that they could import more troops, and this is possibly why they weren't reinforcing this, because they were worried that they couldn't keep that one port. It looks like there are actually reinforcement units now starting to arrive from Germany to try and take out the Union of Britain. I think their goal right now is the capitulation of the Third Internationale. Britain, Spain, France, and then eventually mighty Ireland. Although Ireland does have quite a few units around defending it. They do have their coasts pretty well defended, each of the adjacents as well, so Ireland clearly knows how to defend against a naval invasion, because that's the proper way to do it. Basically, put troops in the main port, and then also troops in either province either side. This stops the enemy from landing troops adjacent and then using those as a ground force to attack into the port. Because once they've already landed, they don't suffer the amphibious penalties anymore, and the port will fall a lot more quickly. Whereas if you're garrisoning these two, then they can't get the adjacency, and then everything has to be amphibious, and that suddenly becomes a heck of a lot more difficult. Will the Germans get to London at this point, or will the Americans? I actually don't know. The Americans are definitely making one hell of a go for it. American heavy tanks are starting to arrive in heavier numbers. Some of them a little bit low on strength. Some of them arriving at full strength. So it looks like the Union of Britain's fleets are starting to really struggle. It does look like the heavy tank attack is being stymied, as is the Austrian heavy tanks, and in fact more Austrian heavy tanks are beginning to arrive now that they have shown that it is actually possible to get them through. I'm a little bit surprised that CNTFAI has not capitulated, or have they? Where are they? They're so close, 96%. You could get rid of another player if you took out CNTFAI. But the French and the Spanish forces defending them do seem to have once again solidified their holds. Paris remains in the hands of the French with their 4 infantry divisions and 2 tank divisions, and there we go. Giant out of sync, which just seems appropriate for the chaos that's happening. Oh man. Suddenly this game has truly come alive. Get your votes in. Alright, I need to click on somebody else. Flanders! You seem pretty much untouched. So yeah, what I was saying here is Königsberg and all of these territories in the old Prussian area have actually been retaken, which means that the meeting up with the Russian front seems increasingly unlikely. So all the Reichspakt has to do is stick some submarines in the Baltic, and then the supply from these guys is completely cut off, and they would be able to just, in time, destroy them piecemeal. Meanwhile, we are seeing some Austrian heavy armor in the area, which are going to be helping pushing back as well. But the real victories are going to be here in England. We have got the Austrian heavy tanks meeting up against the American heavy tanks and pushing them back. We have also got the attack on London. London has fallen. So London has fallen to the Reichspakt. The next question is, can they hold it? Meanwhile, Paris remains in place, and they are not attacking Paris. They are being attacked by large numbers of French heavy armour. Garangi just surrendered. That is the important news for today. And meanwhile, La Coruna is still around, which means that CNT-FAI still hasn't died. Even though they have absolutely no troops in Spain at all, and nobody is doing the tiny bit of work needed to get them to capitulate. I am still astonished that they've not attacked Paris. Like, they went after London at this juncture, but not Paris? That just seems weird. Anyway, the vote is in. Let's go and take a look at what the vote is. So in last place, not last place, these are still the top 5 players. But in 5th place, we have the Ukraine with 8% of the vote. A very close 4th place, we've got Germany with 9% of the vote. Then we've got China with 12% of the vote. Sweden with 22% of the vote. And then the stream favourite for the Kaiserreich Weekly 2020 tournament is Austria with a whopping 49% of the vote. And that is a very staunch victory for the Austrians. I can't believe I'm saying that the Austrians were the favourite. This is so out of character. But I've got to agree. That is an entirely reasonable outcome. So let me just go and save this. This is poll number 4. And then I will send that over to Kaiserreich Weekly. And there we are. Okay, back to the game before I miss too many things. So, has London fallen again? No. Yeah, Belgium's pretty well fortified, but then Belgium is always pretty well fortified. Like, this is actually a really, really, really heavily defended region for some reason. And I'm sure that the fact that the French attacked over and over and over and over and over and over and over, you get the picture, again, has nothing to do with it. Meanwhile, the fight back against the Chinese and the Russian forces in Germany has begun. They are pushing them back slowly but surely. Rostock has fallen. Remember, Rostock was once one of the furthest reaches that they had taken, likewise with Königsberg. These units are all trapped here. There is an attack coming from Denmark. However, these guys, Philippines, have just arrived in some pretty hefty numbers, as have the Russians. We do have a very large German unit guarding the Strait crossing. The real question, though, is, are there going to be more naval invasions? And I think the answer to that is yes. Yes, there is. Whoa, almost lost the last of my tea. That would have been bad. What a terrible way to end. So, do they have any naval superiority in this sea yet? Nope. Supplies are still flowing freely. However, the lines in the Union of Britain do seem to be consolidating a little bit. Dover is about to fall, and I strongly suspect that Dover is the last piece in the Union of Britain puzzle. Britain has already capitulated before CNT-FAI, amazingly. And now all they need to do is take out France, and then that is the third international out. Ireland remains triumphant as the last bastion of international socialism. Syndicalism, whatever. Meanwhile, France attacks Belgium. Again. Because that's the important thing to do right now. The heavy tanks do seem to be pushing the Germans back a little bit. I suspect the Germans have had to pull back quite a few troops from the French front. There goes CNT-FAI. There goes Gibraltar. Austria got a large chunk of it. That's interesting. All the bits that were still left. So Austria's just got a bit of a temporary industrial boost. Meanwhile, the offensives against the remaining defenders here is ongoing. We do have American heavies, which are going to be trying to push out here and probably go for London. There is a hell of a air battle going on. Reichspakt is actually doing better in the skies than I thought. We wanted to go and take a look at Sweden's perspective, because Sweden, of course, has been the harbinger of many air forces' doom. Northern France is completely secure with almost 2,000 fighters. There is the mother of all... Actually, it's not the mother of all. We saw an even bigger one in Russia. Air battles going on in southern England, where we've got 4,000 Swedish planes fighting against 3,600 combined enemy planes. They've also got 1,450 support planes. Those support planes are CAS, and they are the ones who are going to be eroding rather rapidly anyone attacking into them. See the amount of damage that is being taken to the massed number of close air support in this battle. So even if the Americans are pushing back into the lines holding this, and the lines are a little bit thin and a little bit shaky, there are definitely some causes for concern in the Union of Britain. They are going to be taking an outrageous amount of damage, although the amount of tanks that the Americans are throwing into the fray, they want London, and they want it badly. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 heavy tank divisions in here compared to Austria's, I think, 3. So they are hitting very, very hard. They're going for Norwich, trying to take the port there. They're going for London right now, guarded by a single German unit. They have been cut off, so these two are now singular. However, they do still have Dover. Dover is going to hold and be providing supply here. America is saying go for those territories. London. Is London going to fall? Probably. There are just too many American heavy tanks in the region, and I think that Germany is trying to hold out against just too many things. However, Paris is still not falling. There is a potential cutoff for another 3 French heavy tanks. One of them did just die. We were looking at it, and there are another 2 of them here which are almost about to die. Another infantryman just disappeared, and we're going to see the demise of these guys. I don't know why Germany's just refusing to attack Paris. They're just not doing it. Who controls Scapa Flow? It's a victory point. That would be Canada. Actually, no. Union of Britain still. Nobody controls it. But that's an easy point for the Entente. All they would need to do is move a soldier up there, basically. Oh, nope. The French have actually managed to connect again, so that is no longer a potential cutoff there. The Austrians are pushing out a little bit. They have retaken Cambridge, but I'm just not convinced that they have enough troops out here to hold. Not to mention that they are going to be taking supply attrition if they don't control the coastline, which I don't think they do. Meanwhile, there is a massive Filipino-Russian... nope, just those two pushing out from Aarhus, trying to take out northern Denmark, northern Jutland. And then from there they can basically swing south and then try and open another front. However, Stettin has just fallen. That is one of the ports, which means all of these units are now stuck here, including 2 heavy tank divisions from Russia. And it does kind of look like this naval invasion has eventually lost momentum and faltered. Meanwhile, Russia actually starting to take some very serious equipment shortages. We can see that their units are growing increasingly weak on the front lines here, and that is almost certainly due to the continual attacks that they've launched against the Ukraine. Meanwhile, France is being attacked by Belgium. Revenge for all of the other times that France was trying to attack Belgium. Oh, we have got Austrian tanks flowing into the area. And lots of naval battles. These are Union of Britain ships trying to sink... No, 2 Sicilies. And Canadians. So the Union of Britain, even from the grave, are causing some problems. However, the French forces have now been cut in twain by the Free French forces. This is being restored to... Oh no, it's Australasia. That's clearly not Australasia, though. This is Australasia. Weird. Because that's obviously Free French territory. So the Free French are... Not Free French, this is not vanilla. National France is starting to reclaim parts of France. We do have a very large stack stuck here around Clermont, Saint-Etienne and Grenoble. Lovely city, by the way, Grenoble. If you ever have an opportunity to visit, I highly recommend it. And it's just going to be a matter of time before all of this dies. And then basically the French have no defences in the south anymore. And the Entente forces, I think, are basically just going to be able to push up from the back and take out the rest of France. It's going to be down to whether the Reichspakt can actually crack the nut that is Paris. Or, you know, try. They still haven't even tried, from what I have seen. Eastern Front is unchanging. Hasn't changed for a long time. Game ends in 45 minutes from now. We're going 12:15 British Summer Time. Okay, there are some big naval battles going on. Boom. Oh, India has successfully broken into Sicily. And the two Sicilies have broken across Messina Straits. So we've got Reichspakt forces on one side, Entente on the other, and then stuck in the middle, still being supported by Catania, we have the CNTFAI garrison forces. Meanwhile, Sardinia has been restored, Corsica has been restored, and peace is slowly starting to settle in the Mediterranean. We do have a American naval invasion based from Thessalonica. It does look like it was eventually halted by the Bulgarians. And that seems to have stalled any other further encroachments. I'm still interested in this. I don't know if the Reichspakt is going to be able to do enough to defend this against the American units, because there are just so many of them. The Austrians jumping on the opportunity there to take out one of the American heavy tanks before it could cause any damage. Quite nicely done. Meanwhile, the strangulation of the German invasion force continues. We are seeing some Japanese units beginning to arrive. Do we have any ships? No, still no blockade. Okay. What's Australasia's navy doing? I want to see the one competent navy. Australasia is off the coast of Africa. Trying to take out Middle Africa for the last time, I guess. Oh no, they're also off the coast of England. They're all over the place. Lovely. Yeah, they really are. Okay. And they've got 14 off the Cape of Africa because they saw from Germany how effective that was. And then also, the blockade's back. They are starting to shift ships towards Japan to try and cut off the Japanese supply. Though right now it is just off the South China Sea and then also around the East Indies, where currently there is superiority not in their favour, but they are raiding. Not very effectively. Possibly because there's just a lot of convoys moving through here. Meanwhile, the Entente attack has... No! Co-Pro. Oh, these are into India. That's AI. Is attacking into Jaunty Java. Australasian Federation is consolidating the holds over Spain, which is going to be giving them a fairly hefty boost in terms of industries, and possibly also dockyards, which they are probably going to enjoy. Meanwhile, Paris still stands. Does the Entente have access to chromium? Yes. They have Turkey now. And also southern Greece, and I think southern Greece is a chromium source. No, it's not. It's further north. It's here. And here. But the big chromium stocks are in Turkey. Oh, and Cuba. The Entente do have Cuba too now. $97 there. Actually, I'm curious about this. What resources are the various nations now short on? So Germany is incredibly short on aluminium, which is going to be stifling their ability to put out aircraft. Austria is short on chromium and steel, which is going to be stifling their ability to create heavy tanks. Bulgaria less short on chromium, but that's mostly because they're just exporting it to Sweden and Germany. Sweden actually has a surplus of everything. Good for them. Russia, surplus of everything, especially aluminium, you know, just to mock Germany. Who else? USA. That's not USA, that's Bulgaria. USA has a surplus, and in fact they are importing chromium and steel. They are importing a lot of chromium and steel, particularly from South Africa. They could regain themselves a lot of factories if they got rid of those. What happened to Turkey? Bulgaria was caught snoozing. Big time. Like one of the biggest disasters of the games. Like Turkey was taken without resistance. It was horrible to watch. Meanwhile, the Germans have actually consolidated some of their holdings here. It's dangerous to not be... actually, they might be guarding Norwich. Let's Nope, they're not guarding Norwich at all. There's nobody in it they could really do with retaking those, because the Entente right now could just ship in more troops to Norwich and to Yarmouth. But they have not yet done so. And the Austrian-German forces there, they looked far too thin for my liking. Oh. We have got German raiders. Finally. German raiders are now actually active, incredibly, in the Baltic. And they have a tiny amount of friendly superiority. The Swedish could probably help with that. And this is going to be cutting off supply to all of this, meaning that this counterattack would be a heck of a lot easier. They have actually done an... Yes, Austria has actually done a naval invasion and managed to take one of the two ports that the Co-Pro units, Co-Pro forces actually have in this area. Elbing being the other one, sorry, Danzig being the other one. However, Denmark is looking rather bad. There are 10 Ukrainian divisions stuck here. They do have the Kiel Canal, which they are going to be able to defend, and it is going to be very difficult for these units to punch south and threaten Germany. But threaten it they can. They might well want to move away some of these 24. Maybe leave 12 there, bring 12 down here. That type of thing. Germany might be allergic to Paris. I don't understand why they're not attacking it. They've been standing here forever with large armies, and they've never once gone for it. Maybe because France has fortified it to a level 7 fort? Maybe. I think level 7 is the maximum allowed. I think there is a ban on 8, 9s and 10s. Meanwhile, the Entente is just taking everything else. And at this point, I actually wonder if the Entente can take Paris, because Germany just doesn't want to attack it. Meanwhile, Sicily continues to fight. They have retaken Messina, which means the Reichspakt or two Sicilies no longer control that. India still is in Palermo and whatever port that is. Baghdad. Baghdad's fallen. To who? Co-Pro. So Co-Pro have some... Oh, it's the Persians. Okay, so via Persia they are starting to fight against Saudi Arabia. So it does look like the war between these guys is heating up again. So this might just be the actions of AI. Because it does look like it's mostly Iraqi units defending this. Who's pinging? Oh, wow! Germany has just rolled these borders up big time. I guess the Austrian armor arrived. Kolberg's been retaken. They do have a couple of units stuck there. Danzig is still available. They could do a Danzig evacuation. A last minute Danzig evacuation back to Russia. You know, like the Russian Dunkirk. It's still open, still available. Yeah, I don't think that Germany is actually 4.5 million. They're fine. Like I know from single player, Germany doesn't really struggle in manpower until like 15 million losses. 5 million is actually very little for them. Like 10 million is where things get a little concerning. And I think they are still on... Oh no, they're service by requirement. Let's work this out. So that's 10, 15, 20%. They're at 14.8. They're still mobilizing. They got another 6.2% manpower to raise. They're fine. Is Italy retaking Sicily? They're trying. Not very successfully. But the mighty two Sicilies don't ever think they're dead. Even from the grave, they reached out from the oceans, from the waves beneath the Mediterranean, and brought down the SRI flagship? I think it was the SRI. I was trying to remember if it was the SRI or CNT. I think they nearly sank the CNT FAIs prior to the fleet, but they did sink the Socialist Republic of Italy flagship, which was hilarious. It's like, I'm not dead yet, I can still sink your ships. Entente was on 9 without London at one point. Oof. Can you ask him when the game is over with? You mean when the game ends? 12:15 BST. So in 45 minutes-ish. Meanwhile, we have American and Caribbean forces attacking London. Right now, things are looking a little bit shaky. We've got the heavy tanks moving in from the rear. They are actually destroying the Austrian forces. We have a very big consolidated push on... I'm going to see this from Canada's perspective because I want to see the air power. On London. And I'm guessing that the Entente, yes, have managed to... Whoa! 10,000 planes are currently... darkening the skies of southern England, and Reichspakt Air Force is nowhere to be seen. Sorry for like yelling into the microphone there. I was just surprised by 10,000 planes, because I don't think anyone's managed to muster more than about 5,000 up until this point. But the attacks on London are coming in. The Canadians are pinging like crazy. Attack, attack, attack! London assault has ended, but there are so many American heavy tanks in this area, and they are just going to be able to play absolute havoc on the defenders of London. And the Reichspakt just did not leave enough troops here to defend. I mean, that was pretty clear from the outset. So now the Reichspakt only real option is to take Paris, which they still haven't done. And here we go. It looks like London is about to fall. London has been encircled. 86, 88, 90, 91, 92, 95, 98. Boom. London has fallen for the... Wow, it's taking them a while to arrive. Come on! There we go. London has fallen for the second time, and now the Entente is in control of it. And considering the Entente control basically the entirety of Great Britain at this point, I think it would be rather difficult for them to retake it. It would require another spectacular naval invasion. And I think at this point, the Austrians probably just want to GTFO with their heavies. Like, these are losses that they really don't need to take at the moment. We are seeing quite a few American ships patrolling here. We've got the Australasian submarine sinking a Union of Britain battleship and 2 heavy cruisers, because basically all the screens are now dead. I look at Bolivia. It still exists.